Getting ready for another big day of racing. It is Kentucky Derby Saturday, and the first stakes race on the card is going to be the Knicks Go. That's going to be race number 4. It's named after a very, very fast horse, and we're going to have a fast field lining up in race number 4. Joining me to talk about this race, a good friend, someone who is on cloud 9 right now because his T-Wolves just swept the Suns, and we'll talk all about that in a little bit. The radio statistician for the T-Wolves who was traveling out to Phoenix, who has a lot to be happy about right now with that performance. How you doing, Dave Handeland? So we will talk about that at the end of this. You are more than just a basketball fan and a basketball aficionado. You also, my friend, are a very good handicapper. You've qualified for the NHC a couple times. You were out there earlier this year. So I decided we're going to talk a little bit about the basketball happenings in Minnesota. Have to bring you in and have you work some double duty and talk about the Knicks Go in the stakes race here on the Kentucky Derby undercard. So for everyone out there who wants to play along, make sure you head to drf.com and check out the past performances, the Kentucky Derby packages that they have, and all of the tools to help you out, betting strategies, everything you need to succeed in all the big races each and every day. Dave, these are the days we love as horse players, man. Some big fields, some huge betting opportunities. And while the race that you and I are going to discuss, race number 4, the Knicks Go, it's not a graded stakes race, but it is a stakes race that has some serious quality. It's for horses that have not won a graded stakes race over the last couple of years. So you have a lot of horses who have had, a cup of coffee and face stakes company, and maybe that was just a little too tough. Horses that are on the upswing. It's a fun handicapping race in a really challenging group. But that was, I gotta say, that was very, very well done right there. That was great. Very good work right there. Shout out to Brunson coming off of the all-time playoff high for the Knicks there. The Knicks Go overnight. So we're yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It, he he feels like the horse that this race is kind of like written for. Like this him exactly, the template of him who was just facing a little bit better, or maybe it was going a little bit farther, or a couple different things. But if he just runs the same race as he's been running, that will win this race. And what is positive for him is that he has shown that he can sit off the pace before. He's done that before. Now, the counter to that would be he had more recently he's been one dimensional, but that's been against some good horses. So if Pratt is able to just sit off a little bit or keep him close, he's of the shorter prices. I thought he's the most logical. Like I totally agree with you that he's hands down the horse to beat. Third start of the form cycle, can sit close, getting major class relief. The last race, whenever you see a race that Red Route 1 wins, you know that there's a lot of other early speed in that race because he's a deep, stone cold closer. So when that happens and Best Actor is up front trying to go a mile and an eighth in a race where there's a lot of other speed, that's the type of race that just doesn't set up well. Better spot for him. And as a starting point, I think he is the horse you want to use in your exotics, the horse that you, if you're looking for the kind of the measuring stick in this race. Now, I'll mention a few others that are in the next tier of prices that I think could run really well in here. The first one is the 7 Capuna, who he has that versatility, Dave, where you go through his form. This is a horse who they thought enough of to take a shot in the Louisiana Derby. That was too much. If you eliminate that race and you look at all of his races in like against Allowance Company, it's good. He was the runner-up in this race last year behind Zozos, who you pointed out came out of the race and had a really nice 2023. Zozos is actually the morning line favorite in race 10 on Saturday, the grade 1 Churchill Downs Stakes, which is a good sprint race. And Zozo, I think, won 3 races in a row and 4 out of 5 last year. So he used this as a real nice springboard. And Capuna was second that day. There's so many little things about him I like in that. If, let's say, Best Actor loses this race, I think it's because others go really fast early. And I like that Capuna has shown he can sit off the pace a little bit, and he's drawn to the outside of Best Actor. So he might be able to sit just outside of him and be one of the horses that would benefit. I had 2 that were kind of my top tier with Best Actor, and it was the 2 and the 7. Dennington was the other, who he just feels like it's the right spot for him. He's the deep closer who will really take advantage of all the other speed if they go up front really fast. He's proven at Churchill. He's run big races here. And he's the type of horse with his running style, Dave. Horses like this are always not as frequent winners just because of their running style. It's not that he's not a good horse, or it's not that he's not consistent. It's just he does need things to happen for him to run well. Sometimes he catches fields where there are, smaller fields, or they go slow up front, and then he just doesn't have much of a shot. There are versions of this race where he does have a big shot. Yep. He didn't really have a break from when he debuted. It was every month to 6 weeks. He just raced again and again and again. And you're right. It's not only looking at the second off the bench, it's taking the situation into account. Like for this particular horse, at the end of that campaign on the sloppy track, he was just tired. He needed some time off. He's been given the time off. The Oaklawn race was just a perfect get the race under your belt, shake off some of the rust. And now can we step up and get back to where we were in the low 90s to mid 90 buyer speed figures? Mm-hmm. Yep. A lot, because a lot of them have been running with it recently too, right? A lot, and they take it off. It is funny. What you did is, I think, the best way to handle it is you take into account that, okay, they're all dealing with it, or most of them are. So it's going to be a little bit of a factor for all of them. Who's dealt with it the best so far? Well, we've seen these horses win without Lasix before and run well without it, even if it's been infrequent. At least they've done it. Mm-hmm. Yep. Not at the lower level too. You're just not asking as much of him. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Right. Hmm. Yep. Yep. And even last year, the two best races that this horse has ever run in his career were back to back at Churchill when he was second in the Knicks go behind Zozos and then second right back to Three Technique. Three Technique is also in that sprint race on the Saturday card. I think he's 10-1 in the Churchill Down Sprint. He's a nice horse as well. So there's no shame in those races. And that's one thing that we see sometimes too, where while Kapuna wasn't running in as many graded stakes races as perhaps some of the others, he was actually facing horses that would step up and win graded stakes, which is so it's the same thing. It actually kind of helps your price a lot of time because people don't see or think that they've been coming out of as tough of races. When you know those horses and you know what they go on to do, Kapuna, it just makes a whole lot of sense. Another one who had a nice campaign of stringing races together. And then it just might have been those two races, Dave, those two best races that he ran in May last year, the Knicks go, and then the one right after it, like 4 weeks later. And those two, they just might have taken a little something out of him. He ran so big, then his next two weren't quite as good. And then he had a little bit of a layoff. He came back, another little bit of a layoff. It's almost like after that point, he tailed off. They had to get him back figured out, gave him the time he needed, and then boom, I feel like he's in really great spirits right now. Yes. Yep. Yep. He he could there could be a nice step forward with him in like a ceiling that we haven't because he's so lightly raced still, and he's only all of his dirt form is really good. The only race that he didn't run that great on the dirt was before the long layoff, and it was going a mile in 3/16. He looks like a miler, like 7 furlongs to a mile. This just looks perfect. 7 furlongs at Churchill breaks the maiden. A mile at Ellis absolutely crushes. The concern would just be if he's a little wide from out there, because he probably wants to just track off and maybe he hooks a bit wide, but sky's the limit for a horse like this. I have no knocks on him whatsoever. Like the next tier below best actor, there are some intriguing horses. Like even a horse like the 8 Strava, who had good races earlier in his career, and then they dropped him down, and he was claimed, not really drop down when you're claimed for 80, right? You're claimed for 80,000, but they figured things out with him after they claimed him, and Cassie got him back on track, and he likes Churchill. He's a 3-time winner here too. And, if he's another horse who could just kind of sit in a good spot and fall into it, I don't think he's as good as some of the others, but just from a speed figure standpoint, he's run some pretty fast races. And if it does come up a little sloppy, his best race came on a sloppy track here at Churchill Downs. So just pointing that out because they have mentioned that the forecast is going to change a few different times. We'll see what it looks like as you and I sit out here on Tuesday and talk about this one. I think so too for me. And a mile is he like a mile and an eighth is a little too far. A mile and a quarter is a little too far. He does feel like a dirt miler, I don't know how versatile he is. Like, I don't know if he's sitting 2 or 3 lengths behind if he can win. I think he does need that front end trip where he's just cruising, and maybe he gets it because he's drawn down on the inside. But I do feel like you look at strong quality. I'm looking at, the 4 probably past property showing some speed in here coming out of the dirt races. You've got the 5 not normal with the blinkers on, and they showed speed, even some good tactical speed going shorter. Best actor, I don't think will be too far out of it. Kapuna doesn't want to be too far out, hoping he sits a little. You look at U.S. Army, he wants to go. 5-star general, he wants to go. And then Oscar Eclipse to the outside wants to be close. If strong quality wins this race, I feel like he's going to earn it down there, with a possible lot of pressure to his outside. Is good. It's right here at Churchill, too. Yep. Yeah, I think so, too. The Stakes Marathon on Saturday starts in race number 4 with the Knicks Go. And hopefully Dave and I were able to lead you to a few horses that you can use and make some money off. Dave, before we talk some basketball, Derby is on Saturday. Here's a look at the field. 20 signed on with Fierceness, your 5-2 morning line favorite. Sierra Leone, 3-1 down towards the inside as your second choice. Talk to us about how do you play the Derby? Or are you going to, do you play more into like the pick 4s, pick 5s, trying to get alive? Or do you also play this race individually? Give me your group of horses that are in the mix. Bunch of different ways. Everything, all of the above. All of the above. Yep. 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 Left. I do too. Yep. I think Sierra Leone's the horse to beat as well. I have Sierra Leone in the second spot, and then just in all exotics, Sierra Leone is in, like, just the one to beat. I like Catching Freedom a little bit. You mentioned Honor Marie, who's a horse who's just been everything right now is positive. You're hearing about Honor Marie, and that's good. Like, there's horses that are wise guy horses and stuff, but of course you want to hear good things going into these races. So you want to hear that the horses are training well and doing well. And then a couple of my long shots that I'm going to throw in, and at least unders, are 18 and 19. Stronghold, who won the San Anita Derby, and Resilience, who won the Wood Memorial. both of those horses also have experience at Churchill. Stronghold broke his maiden at Churchill, and I prefer for them being wide versus being to the inside because I agree with you. I think there's a lot of speed, and I hope they just sit out like 4 or 5 wide, just kind of grind around, sit a nice trip, and fall into it and hit the board. I think both of them might be just a little bit better than some of their speed figures would suggest. So I'm hoping they're a little undervalued. And in talking with a lot of people, I'm not hearing very many people mention those horses, in particular Stronghold. So I kind of like having at least one or two that aren't on everyone else's radar. And those will be at least in the 2, 3, 4 spots for me. So it's nice, Dave, win or lose. I can find 5-2 every day of the week at Canterbury and a lot of tracks that we can find. You know what I mean? So this is a race where I'm always going to be taking a little bigger swing than that. Safe and fun or a couple things. Yeah. Tis the law, right? Nothing wrong with that. Yep. The reducers. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Dave, we finish up here and we have to talk a little bit about the Wolves because you and I'm very lucky that you've joined me the last few years to preview the NBA season, and then we'll talk again either after All-Star break or before the playoffs. And we we previewed the playoffs a few weeks ago before they all started, and one thing that was a little surprising was that the Wolves were underdogs in a series against the Suns when yeah, you could look at the games they played against each other in the season, and the Wolves did not have very much success against the Suns in those 3 games. But all year long, Minnesota was basically in the one spot. They were one of the best teams and the most consistent teams all year. Phoenix was up and down. They'd have some good runs, some bad runs, but they were never consistent whatsoever. And they were on the road. It was so weird that Minnesota was favored in game 1, but the Suns were still favored in the series. There were just a lot of things that didn't make sense about it. And when you're a gambler and that happens, you start wondering like, that just seems too easy, or it doesn't work that way, or there's no way. And I don't know if you or I, either one of us thought that they would sweep the Suns, but I thought we both felt like they would beat the Suns and be a little be more competitive than what the narrative was. And wow, that was one of those coming out parties for star players that we see where I mean, people were playing his quotes, talking about how he just wants to kill everyone, and he was just the waving goodbye, the 4-0, the trash talking to Durant, and then after Durant, he couldn't even fight back. And I respected Durant for this. All he said was, I like this guy, man. Ant, I'm a big fan of Ant. He's my favorite player to watch. This was such a cool moment for your Wolves. And I imagine being a fan and seeing that and how the history of the Wolves have been. And now you've got this guy who you really think like sky is the limit. Like, how good could this guy be? And what heights could he lead us to? They did not know. Oh my gosh. He's he's likable. He's likable, but has an edge to him, right? Like if he was a WWE wrestler, because we like wrestling, he would be the cool baby face, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he's a good guy, but he's not just corny. He's not. I love Cody Rhodes. He's not Cody Rhodes going out there, right, and crying and cutting promos like that. He's a different type of dude, and that's why. Yeah, right. Exactly. Like he's more of the cooler guy that's got the edge to him, and this is one of his real moments right now, and it's setting up because you need it to set up for you sometimes. And man, it could set up for this guy where he just takes out Durant, Booker, and Beal, this three-headed monster that got put together that everybody thought was going to be this amazing team. And then everybody was picking them over the Wolves. And then he could take out the defending champs in round two right away. And following that, win or lose, that's the type of, hey, I'm here. I'm a guy. I'm raising my level of where everyone thinks I am. I'm really excited for this matchup, Dave, because I'm a Lakers fan. I just watched Denver. They they beat the Lakers 11 of the last 12 times. They're way more vulnerable this year than they were last year. They just have one or two less pieces on the bench that you trust more, and that in a series will really impact them. And the difference between the Lakers and the Wolves, where this isn't even a better or worse thing. This is just the way that our teams are different. The Wolves are a little bit bigger and longer, and that will help your team get so many more rebounds, not have to worry about those extra second chance opportunities that Denver got. It was backbreaking when the Lakers would play great defense and a ball would just bounce to Jokic, to Gordon, to Porter Jr. And the reason why that was happening, Dave, is because the Lakers just didn't have the personnel right now. With Vanderbilt out, with Wood out, it was far too often where you were getting Michael Porter Jr. matching up on Austin Reeves. You were getting Porter Jr. on D'Lo or Dinwiddie or one of these guys where there's nothing they can do about that. They just don't have the size there. And you can try and you can do everything you can. And I was really impressed as a fan. I was super happy with the performance that the Lakers gave us, because that was a lot of times at the end, teams can lay down and die. And the Lakers got beat twice on buzzer beaters in a series that they led 75% of the time, which they led by double digits at the end of the first quarter. All three, the first four games, they led at halftime every game. It was very enigmatic. And you can sense they're just a little more vulnerable than they were last year. No Brown is the real key. Like, and Green. Those are two guys they could just trust. Absolutely. It's to this. Yes. No. To Rome. Yep. Mm-hmm. Ant is going to pick up Murray some of the games too. Yeah. But we won't lose the battles in the other spots. No. No. Yep. They play. This was no, but people. Yes. The template. The template is there. Yeah. What? Bring it on. The temp. Yep. And it was a little mental with the Lakers too because this has been a team that's just had the better of them. I think a lot of times they would, they would get there late, and you could see that they were just kind of struggling to put them away. I all along this was the matchup that looked like the team. Yeah, Dave. We finish up here with Dave Handeland. Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming in, talking NBA with us, talking horse racing with us, helping us out with the Knicks Go. Really appreciate all of your analysis, all your hard work, and man, I love going back and forth and talking basketball with you. You're one of my favorite people to chat with, and I'm rooting so hard for the Wolves. Let's go Wolves! I made a wager on the series last time, and I'm going to make a wager on them this time too because I just think value wise, they're the value in this series. Yeah, I agree. get eliminated. Oh yeah, their coaches and the the breaking point. The breaking point. Okay, well, we'll have to fingers crossed. I'm hoping that in like 2 weeks, I'm having you back on for a conversation to preview the conference finals. So let's plan for that. If you beat the Nuggets, we'll have you back and we'll get all ready for the conference finals. And hopefully that will be the Wolves taking that thing down. Dave, good luck to you and all your plays this weekend. Thank you so much for coming on and helping us out here. Wish you the best of luck. And I hope you score a bunch with the Wolves and with all of your plays. Everyone out there, thank you for listening. And this is just the start of many videos coming throughout the day. If you're listening on the podcast, we'll have them all in order for you through all the big stakes races leading into the Kentucky Derby. So Dave Handeland, make sure to give him a follow at SuperStatsDave on Twitter. You can check out some great information there. And he's a fun follow when those Wolves games are on. We'll be back with race number 5 coming up next. Right now, you get to hear the soothing sounds of Joey Cleveland taking you out.